I'm essentially a theatre practitioner, but a very specific area of theatre, and that is in improvisation, and even quite a specific area of improvisation. So I've always approached theatre and the practice of theatre through the journey of authenticity and discovering my authentic voice. So the kind of theatre I've done has always been based around improvisation and self-devising and self-creating theatre. I mean, as much as I enjoy Shakespeare and scripted work, it's not the area that lights up my creativity. So, you know, creativity, you know, it's really been a way of life for me for many years. And recently, actually, I've been doing a lot of work around identifying some, you know, core values of mine, and creativity is a really strong one of my core values. And so I've been pondering that too, like where and I wonder why, how come, where was that birthed? Very hard to say, but a story came to me when I was connecting my values with where they may have been formed in my life. And I remember sitting, as I must have been 8 years old, in the classroom, and the small school I went to, and the teacher invited us to do composition and gave us a provocation of some sort to start writing. And I remember looking out the window, you know, and there's quite a nice open vista, and just this sense of openness and exploration and imagination was opened up in me. And I think somewhere that, you know, that was the beginning in some way, or it touched some core part of me that was already there. My father was an artist, but it brought that to life. So yeah, the creative path has really been, not that I've always been aware of that. I've, you know, veered around in my life, but the older I got, the clearer the more committed I have been to a creative path, mostly expressed through, as I say, theatre. And now moving into, over the last, whatever it has been, 10, 15 years, moving into the translation of theatre techniques and approaches to communication and unearthing other people's creativity. I guess creativity is, to me, you know, we're all creative. I don't isolate creativity, you know, to the expressive arts at all. It certainly is one expression of creativity, and when we can connect with our own creativity, I believe that it takes us closer to a sense of, you know, expressing our authenticity, our, you know, and people will view that differently, our soul, our you know, innate spirit, whatever that, and in whichever way that is, it's that ability to see something or to engage with something from a different perspective, from your unique perspective and interpretation of the experience. So for me, that is all different senses. That's mind, body, you know, heart, energy, you know, it's our whole being that comes alive and in different ways. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's always, well, in some way it is of the soul, but it's more, I feel that often what is missing, what can be overlooked in even problem solving, it's I don't think it's ever just with your mind. When you think about problem solving, you know, the different engagements in the process, you know, create, you know, the end result. And some of those are getting up and going and having a cup of coffee. You know, and in that process of, you know, moving from just trying to approach it, you know, through a cognitive process, just moving your energy, different insights open up. And you know, it's that classic, you have your best ideas in the shower. It's a way, it's when you're not solely focusing from a cognitive level of engagement, that I think you do open up different you know, avenues of seeing and perspective. And you know, and I feel like we don't, generally I think we could harness and utilize much more the body in the creative process, in whatever that is, in problem solving, in you know, however, you know, you express your creativity. It's a combination of all of it, our whole being. When we learn to engage that in whatever process, it's, you know, you think about something, you read something, you go for a walk, you know, all of that contributes to coming to a different dimension and of perspective. And yeah, I think and that's the company I'm creating. My company name is Moving Communication, because yeah, I firmly believe the more we can build movement into processes, the more creativity we allow to you know, really emerge and open up. You know, it's when we get really fine. I mean, there's a time, of course, to come down. You know, it's that, you know, the divergent thinking and being to the what is it, divergent and the more contracted, convergent.
Yeah.
It's that sort of, the tension between the two, you know, creates, you know, opens up ideas and creates disparate, allows for disparate connections and links and perspectives to emerge, which essentially I think is a creative you know, model, is a model for creativity, I guess. I think, you know, a lot of it gets trained out of us, you know, by you know, culture and society, and yeah, and the more we can open up to this dimension of you know, diverging rather than sticking into, you know, narrow pathways or narrow perspectives, the more we can open up and expand and come from, you know, really in the end, it's about different perspectives. But yes, I believe that's inherent to our human experience, the ability to do that. And I think, as I say, I think a lot of it gets trained out of us and through education and you know, expectations around what is creative and the place of creativity. But you know, and I believe it's a practice, and when you light that up in yourself and foster that, nurture that, you know, that's natural to all of us. I mean, you just have to look at children really to know that.
Right, yes, because children are not always looking for the right answer.
No,
you know, with
that's
convergent
right.
thinking, we're kind of so focused on what is the right answer, whereas children don't seem to care as much about what is a right answer. They're more interested in asking questions. You know, they're curious.
That's right. I mean, and they just, you know, they say yes and dive in. I always remember running a group with some teenagers, I think it was, doing some drama work with them, and there was quite a range in ages. And in this one session, a younger girl, she must have been much younger, about, I don't know, so maybe she was 9, and the others were just 12, 13. So they were becoming, you know, really aware of their identity and fitting in, and you know, there was a tightness around that, and that tightness really creates barriers to just, you know, express themselves. And I was setting up an exercise and inviting people, you know, to step in and to play with an improvisational exercise. And and they were all shuffling around and feeling, you know, a little bit uncomfortable about stepping out and being seen to be silly or stupid or whatever. And this young girl just dived in there and went, yeah, you know, she just was incredible because she was just under that time in our lives where, you know, those norms, those societal norms really, you know, converge, and we become very aware of them, and, you know, trying to navigate our, you know, our authenticity with societal expectations. And just that age difference, she was freer. It was really really struck me the stark difference in approach. And, you know, and I think as adults, the more we can, you know, reach into that childhood, or that, you know, that openness, that ever searching curiosity to just explore and to say yes and wonder, you know, what is there to be discovered, you know, the more we can access our creativity. And that's what I kind of try and generate, and with whoever I work with, is to how can, you know, what are the permissions we can give to ourselves to do that.
Yes, because very often those permissions are external to ourselves. We have to think about the impact of our actions on those around us and what they are willing to accept, what those around us are willing to tolerate. You know, I'm smiling because I'm thinking of the example of being a bad singer. You know, not everyone is Aretha Franklin, and so even in our families, you might not be allowed to sing because people do not like it.
Yes, you're not hitting the right note. In fact, just in our theatre company, we rehearse weekly, and we've been exploring what we call a song form, and it's really been challenging for some of us around, you know, being good singers or bad singers. And so it's limited. For different people, it has had that limiting impact. And we had to really identify what was going on and realize, you know, we're judging. We're all judging, you know, the right way to sing, the wrong way to sing. How about we just throw out judgment altogether and just give ourselves the permission to sing badly? And it just unleashed again this opening, you know, that divergence, possibility. And people, even though we couldn't always hit the right note, the ability still to sing was, you know, just opened up and blossomed. And you know, in terms of what we were exploring, it really worked. It worked really powerfully to just, when you just said yes and your intention, and you stuck by that intention with commitment, you know, by not judging, it was very moving, in fact, to experience, to watch, and also to do it, to move past that judgment that was holding us back, and to let ourselves start finding another voice. What else is there when you get past judgment? It's those expectations that we have to navigate, really. And that, I mean, I guess classically creative people dare to challenge those expectations to discover something new.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I always love that saying, that there's a coach, her name Kathy Salit, says, we are who we are and we are who we are becoming at the same time. And the more we can, you know, say yes to that. You know, that's a classic improvisational perspective, to keep saying yes rather than no. You know, drop the judgment. The movement between divergence and convergence. At some point, you do need to discern, you know, what works and what doesn't.
Yes.
But you have to open up to discover that.
Yes. So
You know,
we have to be humble enough to receive feedback from.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It's not just by, you know, saying yes to all your impulses, you know, that you're going to become a famous artist or whatever it is that it is, you know, your creative pursuit. But I think the more we can say yes to ourselves, the more possibility there is of finding, you know, your expression, your creative expression. The more we can give ourselves permission to be different, to explore, to say yes, to be curious, to play, the more we can, you know, open up to different perspectives, and be, yeah, to be mindful of where we do limit ourselves, and say yes to, well, what happens if I just let that go for a short time? What else is there? What else is there to discover here? What if I come from a different perspective? What if I stand up and walk over there and look at it? What if I, you know, play with different, really, you know, playfulness is, I feel, is a really, you know, undervalued resource as adults. The ability to play with ideas. Playfulness will bring joy, it will bring energy, it'll bring ideas, you know, it'll bring connection. The more we can open up and say yes and be curious and explore, dropping judgment, and you know, and as I say, there is a point at which we do need to discern, absolutely. But I think there's a difference between judgment and discernment.